My name is Brother Ray Ray. Today is January the 13th. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr. History Club, also known as Africans Helping Africans. I want to thank all y'all for coming out. We meet here twice a month in honor of William Mackey Jr., Dr. Professor Amos Wilson, Louis Ray Rivera, Gil Noble, El-Haj Malik El-Shabazz, Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Leola Maddox, and all the people that gave up fame and fortune, good jobs, a good life, because they made the sacrifice to tell the truth and speak history to their people. They gave up a lot, and a lot of them left us with nothing. They struggled through years. They burned the midnight oil to bring history, to bring truth, and lost good jobs.
That's right.
Lost good jobs and suffered because they wasn't supported. The Jewish scholars let their people eat. They're still able to survive. The Noam Chomskys. They're still able to eat. Our scholars are not able to eat. Amos Wilson, William Mackey, Van Serry, all these people, Dr. Bennett, Dr. Clark, burning the midnight oil. So we meet here, so their names will always be here. They won't be forgotten. Gil Noble, who just hung on with a string with CBS, the power brokers, to keep like it is going. And every time you turn around, the program was downsized, repeats. So we meet here in honor of these people. So I want you give yourself a big hand. We have over here the Amos collection. We sell these books in honor of Amos Wilson and the Amos collection. All the books that sold, the money goes back to Sababa so he can continue the work of Dr. Professor Amos Wilson. And when you read these books, a lot of your questions will be answered. You have Blueprint for Black Power. This is the latest that Sababa finished in honor of Amos. The psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat toward a reclamation of the African mind. We also have the developmental psychology of the black child. We have awakening the natural genius of black children. African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order. Issues of manhood in black and white. Amos's classic, Black on Black Violence, the psychodynamics of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. Of course, when you hear all this black on black, we kill each other, all we do is kill each other, you get a different analysis when you read that. Also, the falsification of African consciousness. This brother, Earl Ponder, he left us too early. He passed away. And the last book he wrote was Revealing the Unspeakable Bible Verses, the truth about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and the Holy Trinity. So we still try to sell his books. The Bible was left with a whole bunch of them, and I'll bring them here. Also, S.K. Damiana Ayikum, Distorted Truth, the Bastardization of African Cosmetology. This is a good book. And in honor of Louis Ray Rivera, who used to come down here and speak for hours and hours and hours. His book, Jazz in Jail. we sell this in honor of Louis Grady Bill. And we have a sister that just came here. We want to give her a big hand. Etta Dixon, is that correct?
That's correct.
And she wrote a book, I Am Wellness Witness.
That's right.
So she got a couple of them back here. We want to welcome her. This is her first time in the Mac. Let's give her a big hand. Thank you very much. And she has a couple back there. So yesterday was Khalid's birthday, I believe. His birthday was yesterday. This is in honor of Khalid and Miss Leola Maddox. Is that correct?
That's right.
And Miss Leola Maddox, they had a bunch of events. I was unable to make them because of the prior commitment. But that's why we have these in honor of these people. And Khalid gave up a lot. And once again, on orders through white folks, black folks carried it out. He was dynamite brother. So, the men's and the women's bathroom is to the left. The tea and coffee is in the other room. If you want to get your tea, take a napkin. We got green tea, coffee, hot chocolate. And during the break, we're going to have croissants. And we got some muffins over there, some cookies. The speaker is going to speak to about 9 o'clock, 5 after 9, and we're going to have a little break. Then he's going to come back with a question and answer, and he's going to finish. Now, I just want to read something real quick pertaining to incident happened, the riot in D.C. This is from the Final Call, where everybody is, who is America? Nikita Taifa, attorney and author of Black Power, Black Lawyers, and Audacity Quest for Justice. It's just really, it really astonishes me when I keep hearing in the media and the news that this is something new, or this is something different, or this is not America. This is exactly America. This is what they did to us in Rosewood, Florida. This is what they did to us in Elaine, Arkansas. This is what they did to us in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And this is what they did to us in Wilmington, North Carolina. This is the continuation. Entire communities, hometowns of black people were totally destroyed and completely devastated. Members of Congress had to shelter in place and hide under their benches, but not long ago when my mommy was a baby, families were told to get out of town by sundown. They ran to the swamps. They had to leave all of their houses and possessions. Their family members had to hide in the swamps. This is America. So we're really talking about stuff you hear. And our black selected officials, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And when something happened to us, we can't get an indictment nowhere. I'm going to find out what's going on. This is, I've never seen anything like it. So, our speaker tonight, also very important, we have Saturdays, if you're not doing nothing, Sister Empress Chi, New Resurrection Radio on Blog Talk, that comes on at 10:30. You go into Blog Talk, you put in Empress Chi, and you come down, the New Resurrection, you come on, they have a number. Also, we have Tad, Keisha, and I say Thorough Black Talk on Facebook. That comes on every Thursday on Facebook and YouTube. Also, if you want to get any past lectures on the Brooklyn William Mackey History Club, you can YouTube it. Brooklyn William Mackey History Club, and all the lectures that come down. The lectures by Dr. Arthur Lewis. The other lectures by Brother Mike, and you can see what the organization is about. Tonight's speaker is one of the co-founding members of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, Brother Mike Graves. His show is every Tuesday at 5:30, correct?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. He's going to be the keynote speaker. If you was here, if you missed last week, his topic was civil rights. He's going to do part 2 of civil rights, and he's going to get into the events that happened in D.C. Without further cause, we want to give him a big hand. Brother Mike Gray.
Say I am.
I am.
Because we are. I am.
I am.
Because we are.
Because we are.
All right. Hotep.
Hotep.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Certainly the night, well, everybody's familiar with Hotep. Does everybody know when you say namaste what you're saying?
No.
Somebody said yes? Is there a yes in the building? What are we saying?
I salute you, you salute me.
Yeah, a little heavier than that, but that's
I see the God in you.
the God in me sees the God in you.
God.
That which is divine in me sees the divinity in you. So we should all be valuable in each other's sight. Okay, so we today we didn't get too much into the civil rights last time because I wanted to just apply African tradition of call and response, and I see that y'all enjoyed it to the point where y'all kind of was doing the lecture and I was just standing here. So maybe today y'all will let me use a couple of notes, instead of how we did it last time. Hopefully we imparted some information, but I just seen y'all were just into y'all own thing, so I said, all right, the whole thing gonna be Q&A. So, but this time, if we can get some information out, then on the Q&A, we'll have more time for real Q&A. But from the outset, we're gonna just go through some civil rights, and last time I just was dealing with the nature of what civil rights is, not so much civil rights organizations, because I wanted us to really understand what civil rights, have a working knowledge of what civil rights is, and then you can now put that standard up to organizations, and you come to your own conclusion as to, is this a civil rights organization, or isn't it? Does it claim to be that, or is it? Is it or isn't it? And also, when you're talking about civil rights, sometimes you have to clarify civil rights from human rights, because they're not the same. They're different. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just that they're different. And if you have a human rights issue, it's not necessarily a civil rights issue, or vice versa. So just wanted to, so we gonna, and I know, I can really read your thoughts, so I know some people want to get into recent developments. So we're gonna infuse the two. We'll get into some things that's happened in the last week or so. We'll do that, and that way we will combine just civil rights organizations, and then thinking in terms of some responses to what is developed recently, and are these recent developments really new? Or are they just more the same? Is it new, or is it more the same? And Ray already said in his introduction that it's not new, and it's really not. I think he mentioned Elaine, Arkansas, I think Rosewood, and I don't know whatever else. But
Tulsa.
he mentioned Tulsa?
Yes.
Okay, those are some classic massacres. But I think he mentioned Wilmington too, I think. Well, there's some that are much worse. But those were ones where the information got out. The information was suppressed in Black Wall Street, the Tulsa one, Greenwood section. of Oklahoma. That one, the information was suppressed, and I think that in that one, you're talking about a 70-something year period until whites came to admitting that there was something that transpired so heinous in Greenwood, downtown Greenwood section, which is called Black Wall Street, that they had to admit it. But prior to that, they denied and denied and denied. You couldn't deny Wilmington because of the people involved that did it. You know, so you couldn't deny Wilmington because that was the Democratic Party, the white Democratic Party, and sometimes we confused about that. We don't understand that we went through changes with respect to when we were Democrats and when we were Republicans, and wherever we at now. You know, some people don't vote, don't believe in it. It's just a tool. You know, you can choose to use it or not. But in the one in Wilmington, for clarity purposes, I'll identify that. That was white Democrats. The South used to be Democratic. Why so? Well, because the Republican Party at one time was the party of Lincoln. We understand that? The Republican Party at one time was the party of Lincoln. Consequently, they were the ones that were, not all of them were abolitionists, but they did take a position, you know, you can't get around it. They took a position on slavery, and they were not enthusiastic about it, and some flat out was against it. And among them was Lincoln. Now, don't get me wrong, Lincoln was not going to change America for black folks. So don't get confused by that. I know you have people that call him the Great Liberator. Good to see Rajeen in the house, huh? Oh, man, okay.
Our brother.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. And so, with Lincoln, you can be personally against something. He was personally against slavery. But let's not make it what it's not. When somebody is personally against something, that just means, given the opportunity, they wouldn't do it. You understand that?
Yes.
In other words, he went from a man with no means, very little, paltry surroundings, till he was a person of means, but never, you know, according to history, never owned a slave in his life. Now, did close friends of his own slaves? Yeah. He personally did not. Well, most of the presidents prior to him, the majority of them, owned slaves. He's one of the few presidents that didn't at that time. Again, now, don't go too far with that and think that he liberated black folks. He didn't. Somebody out there said, no, he did. No, he didn't. Black folks liberated themselves. Black soldiers. It was black men that broke the back of slavery. Black men, soldiers, not civilians. Not blacks that were free that, you know, didn't participate. We're talking about black men soldiers. Over 200,000, closer to maybe about 240,000 soldiers that participated in the Civil War and saved America. That's why to this day it's one America. At that time there were two. There was the Confederate States of America and the United States of America. Two different countries. And Lincoln said, not under my watch. It's only going to be one. He said, I'm not going to be the one that give away the store. And a war transpired where over 620, 630,000 white men went to war. And the battle was being tilted, no question, towards the Confederate States of America. And at that point, Lincoln did what he had to do, because he could not legally dispatch black soldiers into war. The Constitution did not permit it. And who made sure of that? George Washington. After he used black soldiers, he made it so that black soldiers could not participate in battle. They could be like reinforcements, like carry wood for you, carry, your food and do some things like that, but could not, compete as soldiers. So he had to legally do what it took, and had to get Congress to support him to bring in black soldiers to save their behinds, because they were in trouble. The North was in trouble. It was a North-South thing, and the South was primarily Democrats, and the North, even though they had Democrats too, the Northern Democrats was not the same as Southern Democrats, and Northern Republicans were not the same as Southern Republicans. Money talk and BS walk like it does today, and the economy was agrarian in the South. Consequently, those in the South embraced slavery, even preachers. White people that now would be considered evangelists, real spiritual and deep, they had no problem having slaves. There was not a contradiction. They had even after slavery, they had no problem lynching black folks who they felt, did something egregious, and that might include looking at a white woman, touching a white woman, or looking at a white man eye to eye, so-called eyeball. That's all it would take. A lot of us think that that's a military term. Don't eyeball me, boy. No, that's Southern. You literally had to walk with your head down as you approached a white person or a white family. You would have to go to the, the street, you would call it, because they didn't all have the curb. They didn't all have sidewalks like they do now. But if you was on a sidewalk, you and your family would have to go into the dirt, step in the dirt or mud if it was wet, and let the white family go by. That was nothing written, but you understood it. It was understood. So the Democratic Party in Wilmington, just to explain that, when black people started getting seats, because there were places even before, because after the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, black men had the right to vote. Well, Wilmington, black folks voted, and their next generation, so you're talking about a couple of generations after slavery, they were able to send their children to school. And they got a little bougie in a real sense, because they didn't understand the climate they were functioning in. So in Wilmington, in that massacre, which is one of the largest massacres, in that massacre, you had blacks who became city council people, they became sheriffs, they became all sorts of elected officials. Consequently, it was infuriating white Democrats. And because the black Republicans had enough votes to get, various offices. And they had some good businesses, so they were doing well. And the problem became when some of these young blacks started dating white girls. And they actually would come up with fancy carriages. They were still driving horses and stuff. This was before vehicles. But they had fancy, coaches, and they would go into white areas and pick up a white girlfriend. And that was the last straw among white Democrats. And so newspapers started reporting these things, but they called it rape. And in a white man's mind, you have to understand, if you're dating a white woman, you're raping her. I don't care if that's your girlfriend, I don't care if you're married to her, they feel that you are taking advantage of her. You're exploiting her, and that she's not in a position to make that decision. You're taking advantage of the situation. So when it came to a head, they killed every black person. They admit because of 3 various large newspapers had these articles, and white women called for help and said, you know, where are the white men? Where y'all at? And consequently, they, in the Wilmington massacre anyway, they actually killed every black person they could find. Like I've said in other massacres, the few that were spared was the few that if they were cleaning white folks' houses, they were to hide inside those houses. But they actually killed everybody they could kill. This went on for several days before order was restored. And during that time, it was one of the bloodiest massacres you want to see, where they actually went to sheriff's offices and removed them, snatched them right out of office. Black men who were duly elected were snatched right out of there. Elected officials, city council people were snatched out of their offices. Black men and women who had businesses was just snatched right out and eliminated on the spot, dragged in the streets. Some were hung. They had shotguns, they had sidearms, everything you could imagine, and even the newspapers reported at any one time there was at least 2,000 white men roaming the streets, killing every black person you could find. But that was the Wilmington one, and certainly the one in Elaine, Arkansas that he mentioned was brutal. Black Wall Street was brutal. The Rose was one. There's so many others. You know, you can do a lecture just on massacres. You know, just on massacres alone. So in any event, I'm just getting ahead of myself, because I'm trying to let you know that what we just saw last week, there's nothing new about it, and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to establish that in a little while. But from the outset, just want to talk quickly about civil rights. Last time we talked about black attorneys. You know, because if you're going to exercise your rights, you're going to need somebody to fight for you. And those, for the most part, are going to be black attorneys. Now, civil rights lawyers, how they were defined back then is not the same, obviously, as what they are now. Who's the top civil rights lawyer now? Top dog.
Benjamin Crump.
Benjamin Crump. Okay, and that's a good answer.
He ain't no real civil rights lawyer.
Of course he's not. But here's what. What cases? The people who said he's the top dog, what cases did he win?
Breonna Taylor.
Can you name one? He ain't win no Breonna Taylor. Who went to jail?
The one who got 12 million.
What's that?
Some family.
Yeah, I know some. Yeah, tell
Some
me.
family, Breonna Taylor's family got 12 million.
They got no. Wait. How much did they get?
12 million.
How much?
One at a time.
12 million.
I saw it in the
Okay. He saw it in the newspaper. That means it happened, right? How many people went to jail? Were the killers? Did the killers of Breonna Taylor go to jail?
No.
Is that justice?
That's civil rights. Civil rights is something.
That is nothing more than hush money.
That's right.
That ain't civil rights.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I talked about civil rights last time, to let you know there's a difference in civil rights, human rights, and the difference in civil rights organizations. But that's not justice.
No.
But you know, you got to meet people where they are. He said they got something. They got 12 million, I think he said. Well, did the shooters of Breonna Taylor go to jail?
No.
If you shoot some white folks, are the white folks going to be satisfied with just getting a few dollars?
No.
You're behind going to jail. Is that right?
If you make it.
If you make it.
That's right.
So there was no justice. So what other cases did Benjamin Crump win? I'm listening. Come on, give me one. Y'all said he the top dog.
I didn't say that.
Give me a case he won.
I I said it because he seems to appear at every incident.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. The brother said, and he seems to appear at all the ones, and he just appeared at the last one too. He makes appearances. He makes appearances. That's what civil rights lawyers have been reduced to.
That's right.
They make appearances.
Yes, the parents.
And they get a third.
Now,
That's right.
if I went through the cases of Charles Hamrich in Houston, Thurgood Marshall, Scipio, Fred Gray, and then you compare them to Benjamin Crump. Are you kidding me? Why does he get all these cases? First of all, I remember when Chokwe Lumumba came here to New York to defend some BLA members. They said, you can't practice here. That's what they told him. Who went to court for Chokwe?
I say, DA.
Who went to court for Chokwe? Everybody should know that's Alton Maddox.
Yes.
Attorney Maddox went to court to fight for Chokwe's right to defend members of the Black Liberation Army that was charged here in New York. Well, that's now, it's really considered now the Alton Maddox rule because you can come here and do a case. So a lawyer can go around and do one case. You can't go into any one area and take all the big cases from those local lawyers. But you can come in and work with another lawyer and take a case. So Chokwe Lumumba, to practice law, it took Alton Maddox. No one else would help him. And it would look bad if you had white attorneys fighting for Chokwe Lumumba's right to practice here in New York. Well, Alton Maddox did that. And then he, in turn, was Alton Maddox's attorney when Alton Maddox was fighting to get his license back. Now, so Ben Crump has that top position because he does not go after police officers. I'm going to say that again so y'all will get it. He comes in allegedly for justice for families that are in dire need of an attorney. And he gets a settlement, he gets the standard is 33%. I got it from people that know that he gets 40% in his cases. He gets 40 and they get 60. So he's almost getting what they get without the pain and suffering. And everybody walks away. When he comes on the case, it takes the steam out of the room. Sometime his guy, Reverend Sharpton, will come in and do a march. They're a tag team now. He'll come in and do a march. And after the march, you now are stunted because you cannot develop organic, community-led leadership. So now you can't have that link and develop leadership, especially among young people and older, because Sharpton comes in and co-opts the movement. And now, when something happens in North Carolina, Virginia, or somewhere way out there on the West Coast, Oklahoma, and as you see in California, all these cases, they wait for Sharpton to come. As a matter of fact, he even preaches a funeral.
That's right. Yes.
They don't even have a local leader, a preacher, that does the funeral. That's done by Reverend Sharpton. Don't you see that you sinking in the mud? You think you are freeing yourself from the mud. You're going deeper in the mud by this tag team match. Now, I didn't say that Ben Crump said, what is the top dog? You said it. Because I don't consider him a legal strategist at all. If you ever heard him talk, but that sound like doesn't
No.
even sound like a lawyer.
No.
He sound like a cat you see down the block. You know, that's, I mean, I don't even know. I'm sure his law books got dust all over it. Because he don't need them. He goes from town to town. He gets the case. He'll, without any problems from the local district attorney's office, he'll have that dialogue with them. They'll set it up, sometimes Sharpton will march. And after the march and the stuff goes on, and he has control of the family will tell you to be quiet and stop the things you're doing. If you demonstrate in the street, you fight, and things are not manageable, that family is going to tell you. And what's going to happen? When the family tells you to cool it, you're going to cool it. Out of respect for the family. But the family does not run the black community. You know, they don't have the right to tell you, well, you can't demonstrate for so-and-so. You know, the Garner family stopped people from protesting. Did they support, what's his name?
Ramsey Orr?
The order. Did they support order?
Not at all.
Did they go to courtroom for order? Ramsey order?
Erica?
No,
No,
they didn't.
Erica-
And don't tell me that Erica did, because I'm saying the family. I'm not talking about one person.
Okay.
She did because she was not on the same page with her family, and she certainly wasn't on the same page with Reverend Sharpton.
That's right.
He chastised her because she was selling T-shirts with her father's image on it just to raise money for the family. And he got on her about that. That was her father. She's named after him. His name is Eric. Her name is Erica. And because Sharpton don't play that, all the money go to him. So even that little money you making on T-shirts, he checked her about that. So what am I trying to say? There's a difference. That your standards have gone down so far. Let me just read some names real quick, because I'm going to move fast tonight because, like I said, I want to be able to get to some stuff. Macon Boiling Allen. She's first black female attorney. Scipio Africanus Jones, Charles Hamilton Houston, Thurgood Marshall, Fred Gray, Clarence Jones, Alton Maddox, Clayton Jones, Colin Moore, Joe Mack, Robert Burns. Now those last four names should all stand out to you all because those are the four attorneys who was either suspended or disbarred in what case?
Toronto Borough.
Not Tawana Brawley, Central Park Jockey.
Central Park Five.
All of them.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a Central Park 5.
Central Park 8.
It's a 7. Now technically it's 9, but 7 were formally charged. The other 2 weren't charged because they weren't even there. But it's no such thing. The Central Park 5 was created. The so-called Central Park 5 was a manifestation of the Burns family.
And Trump.
Now they are, no, not Trump, the Burns family. The Burns family, probably Ken Burns, you know, he might be the best documentarian of note. I mean, with the opportunities, he has the money, he brings in the best people that are experts in their field. He probably is the best of the top, he's the top documentary. Whether he's the best or not would be up to you. But if you look at his documentaries, they are thorough, they are precise, it is loaded with information. The only one that was garbage was the one called the Central Park 5.
He didn't do that.
Yes, he did. Him and his daughter did.
His daughter was.
His daughter was ahead of it, you know, because obviously he's not a spring chicken, so he's getting his daughter in the mix. So she was the executive, you know, producer, whatever you want to call it, and he was in a supportive role. But that was the Burns family nonetheless, and he knows what goes into. You can't. How can you do a documentary on that and not point out that all the black attorneys were disbarred or suspended. All of them were disbarred with the exception of Joe Max. Joe Mack was suspended. The rest of them were all disbarred. Was that covered in the documentary?
Nope.
No,
Was even Alton Maddox covered? And his client walked
not at all.
out the front door. Everybody else went to jail. Alton Maddox's client walked out the front door. Was that covered in the documentary?
Not at all.
Nope.
Okay. Let me mention some other attorneys. Let's say some of the attorneys that we don't know that was down south fighting civil rights. What about Bobby Hill? What about C.B. King? Howard Moore, Maynard Jackson, and Leroy Johnson. Yeah, Maynard Jackson, before he was a mayor. Before he did, before he ran for the Senate and all these other things that he did, he was a civil rights attorney. And he was mean. Now, 2 weeks ago when I talked about a lawyer, and I couldn't remember his name. I talked about the lawyer that was kicking butt down there, but they sent in somebody, which I told you, it was Justice Thomas. He was a young lawyer because they needed to slow down Bobby Hill. Because one thing white folks don't like is a black attorney that's winning cases. So they sent in Clarence Thomas, and suddenly, somehow, Bobby Hill got caught with some drugs on him. And he was staying in the same location. He was staying with Clarence Thomas, and Clarence Thomas was allegedly trying to develop the finer points in law. So he had to go to this attorney, and attorneys, for the most part, they really like it when a young lawyer under them say, look, man, I'm coming to you, man. You doing things that's not in the book, and you kicking butt, and I want to learn from you. Most attorneys say, okay, good, man, hang out for a while, and I'll tell you how I did this, how we do that, and all this stuff. Well, white folks got their answer. They needed to slow him down, and somehow some drugs was found in this hotel. And then Clarence now was fast-tracked to the top. Before you know it, he's running with the Bushes and Reagan and all of them. And now he's in the highest court in the land. And that's instructional, because you need to know that sometimes people get there and you wonder, why was this person fast-tracked? And I won't get into it now. How did Colin Moore he was a regular cat from the Bronx that rented an ROTC, and how did he get fast-tracked? 4-star general, chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, National Security Advisor, Secretary of State. How did a black man do that? Under Reagan and Bush.
He was smart.
Yeah, okay. Oh, he was smart. We didn't have nobody smart before. And so Colin Moore, what's his name? Powell.
At one time they
It's
said
the first smart black guy with a uniform on. Went to the highest levels. No black man has ever gone that far. Why? Well, I'll do that for another day. Because I'm going to get off topic like I did before with y'all. I'm not going to let y'all do that to me
That's a good question.
this time. But if I tell you what, I'll give you a hint. Look at his record in Vietnam. Before Colucci and these CIA guys got with him. Look at all the blacks. Okay, I'll tell you this little. I'm just going to give you a little. I'm not going to talk about power. But here's what. In Vietnam, they were not used to what would be considered now like urban fighting. What's the term for it? Guerrilla warfare. They used to seeing an enemy and using a high-tech weapon and lighting them up from 50 yards, 100 yards, 200 yards away. That's like, he don't have a weapon. He got a little knife. He got a little knife and a little sidearm, and I got something that I can hit him from 600 yards away. He'll never see it coming. So that's the kind of fight they used to. So when they had to start doing some guerrilla warfare and taking hills, well, how did they do it? They started having black soldiers. Here, you know, white soldiers say, no, I'm not going up that hill. I'm not going to that little village, you know, to get to that village. So the blacks had to do it. When every time it came to a commanding officer would say, you, take that hill, take that position. So when some of their complaints got back to the Pentagon, who did the Pentagon send? They sent this young lieutenant, fresh out of their academy, having, still on a brand new uniform. And when he went there, he heard all of their complaints. You know what he said? Yeah, I got you. Wrote all of it down and just left. And went back and gave another message. Oh no, everything is fine. And Colucci and some others, these are guys that are part of what you would call, the secret government. These CIA guys that show up at army places and fields of battle, and they got on suits and ties, and you be wondering, what are they doing here? Well, they saw that lieutenant stroking all these black soldiers, sort of like, well, you've experienced that because you're met in some level in your living room, you met Obama. So they met a young Obama that will tell you all you want to hear and listen, yeah, got you. Oh yeah, that happened? Okay, got you. And they said, man, this is our guy. We need a face. We got a face now. And his name was Colin Powell. But I'll tell you some dirty stuff about him later. At another time, another lecture. But I'm just saying, they identified him right away, and some other people. So with respect to Clarence Thomas, that's how he got there. But let's talk about some black lawyers. But that was the guy. I only mention that because I forgot Bobby Hill's name last time. And I wanted you to know that it was Clarence that did him. And y'all threw me off because y'all start saying, well, that's Mackey's cousin, Look, we all got a cousin we ain't proud of.
That's right.
Come on. All of us got a family member. When you say, ain't that your cousin? You say, well, yeah, that's my uncle's, I think that's his son, so it is what it is, so. But in any event, y'all, because I forgot, it had been a while, but y'all reminded me that that's Mackey's, he's related to Mackey, so.
Really?
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's lawyers. I'm gonna move quick. And we also got to remember that Black Studies was under attack. I'm not gonna go back into it because I talked about it last week, but Black Studies is under attack, and they've included, as I told you before, all this gay stuff is now officially a part of Black Studies, and the gay rights has nothing at all to do with Black history. Nothing. However, they've infused it and they've taken over a lot of Black Studies departments. And as I said, the Black church used to be a place where you can go for relief. If you're under attack from the Ku Klux Klan, white neighbors and people are threatening you, if you needed a coat, if your family needed food, you just went to the Black church and they would feed you. They'd get you some biscuits and some, whatever, some grits and whatever else you needed, and you would survive. Your family would survive. That's what the Black church was there for. So this now, performing, hooping and hollering, that is not the tradition of the Black church. The Black church was that boat that you need when you drown. It was that boat that would comfort you and bring you back to, to the surface. Well, it's now entertainment, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that they haven't saved people, because the Black church have saved a lot of people. That had, whether it's drug problems, marital problems, you know, whatever it might be, the black church has contributed. So I'm not, you know, throwing shade on the black church, but I'm just saying that it has changed from what its original mission was. You know, it used to be the planning place for some of the major insurrections. And it's changed. And ushers used to be able to give the pastor a signal, because he's preaching about liberation, theology. And the masses coming, or white people are coming, and ushers, you know, ushers, you ever see ushers doing this, and they doing something, well, they can give a signal to the back. And his sermon now is talking about the goodness of the Lord. It just changed. Because white folks is coming in. But I don't know what ushers do now. You know, we in a new year. Has anybody talked about watch night? You know, and the thing about that was, watch night was part of black history. That was the night where people was looking to see, were we going to be free the next morning? That's right. But now, in the black church now, it's just spiritual. And I'm not against spirit. I believe in the goodness of the Lord too. However, I know what watch night was and what it's been reduced to now. And we need to understand that and be clear on that. All these churches now do a watch night, where on New Year's Eve, before y'all go to party, you go to church. And they do that, and it's big down south. It used to be big up here too. You go to church, and you get on your knees and you pray. But before, it was a coming together of people because of freedom. This was some real serious stuff, but it's been changed like so many other things. So I'm just saying that to say that there has been a diminution of our civil rights, and we played a role into it. We can't always say, well, white folks did that, even though they've played a role in it. You know, when you see entertainers now talking about doing it in the butt, and I freaked her and she did this, or bragging about when I come in the club, everybody know hit the floor and all this other stuff, and you know, bragging about how much rock they can sling and all that stuff. Well, that's a big difference from when you were singing the songs of freedom and liberation. You know, people get ready. You know, we people that are darker than blue, and you know, all these kind of songs of liberation. Well, y'all don't demand that from them now. As a matter of fact, when Jews tell young black artists, you got to put MF in this and MS that. I need 3 bitches and 2 hoes in this. You say you ain't say hoe enough times. You know, you got to put 2 more hoes in it and 3 more bitches. I mean, this is crazy, but that's where it's at now. You know, you got to defile yourself. And you know, you come on stage, and I've seen Snoop do it before. Now, Snoop might do some good things. I know he's developed a few football players that went to the NFL. I mean, he did some good things, but you can't, you know, that doesn't abdicate you from your responsibility when you come on the stage with some black women and they got chains on, and you walk them out there. Disgraceful. We putting chains on each other now. So I'm just saying, that's entertainment. I'm gonna move real fast. Movies. Stop calling these movies black movies, these black sitcoms. They're not black. They only have black actors in it. If you're not financing the project, if you are not writing the script, it's not black. It's just black actors. So that whole black exploitation thing, or the way they continued in the sitcoms with shows like Martin and all that stuff. Yes. I know a few of y'all like Martin, but you know, don't start throwing thumbs at me. Well, I never seen Blackish, so I don't even know what it's about. I just seen the commercials, and you know, if you channel surfing, and you get there, right when you see it, oh, it's Blackish, just keep on moving. So I've never seen that. I've never seen that one, what's the family? It's not on anymore. The one that
Good Times.
No, this one was about. I guess it's a drama, and there's a music producer and
Oh.
Empire.
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 Yeah.
Empire. I never seen it.
I was never eating that.
But I heard that was popular. And the guy, what's the guy named Lee what?
Daniels.
Lee Daniels. He has a gay person in everything that he does now. As a matter of fact, he emphasizes that whether it's a comedy, whether it's a drama, it's going to be a gay person in every black family. In every situation, it's going to be a gay person, you know. And so that's just stuff that we got to check. And I know that when, what's the sister? She's real funny. I mean, I think she used the N-word too much. Monique? Am I saying the name right? Monique. When she started talking to blacks about building an empire and infrastructure among blacks, it was Lee Daniels, right? The one that went back and told Jews. She trying to build a black thing. And they barred her. That's why you don't see her in movies anymore. Because she said, why do we have to go to them when at the time she said we got Bill Cosby, we got Puffy, we got Jay-Z, all these people that can finance a movie by themselves. So why do we need to go to them? Why do we have to walk in the room and ask them for permission to do a story that we can do? Well, I mean, she was right, but she got taken out. So, but that's entertainers. And so, like I'm saying, don't call them movies, black movies. They're not black movies. They're just black actors in the movies. So when you see them acting out of character, that's not our fault. That's just black people, you know, doing their job. You know, they're paid to play these roles. No different than Stepin Fetchit, Mantan, Rochester, and all the things from the old black and white movies. You know, Rochester, Steinme, Buckwheat, Alfalfa, you know, all of them. So it's no difference. And so we have to get a little better when it comes to that. We have to have some integrity. You got to have an inflection point that says, no, that's it. You know, we can't do that. It would be good to have some women that say, no, we can do this scene without undressing. You know, we can act it out. We can act out a sex scene without me taking off my clothes, which you can do. You know, so you know, we just got to get better in that regard, because if we don't do that, we're going to find ourselves in a bad position. Now, gospel is not even the same anymore. You know, we used to sing gospel songs that uplift the spirit. Now they jamming like everybody else.
That's right.
You know, stomping, all that stuff. You know, when it's not the spirit. It's not the stuff that can carry you through the week till next Sunday till you get back to church. It don't have that oomph in it. You know, that spiritual basis. They just, you know, I mean, they're very talented. You know, I mean, the gospel singers, they sing better than the R&B singers. And the R&B singers, they're not all that good, but you know, the females are eye candy. So the standards are going down. You know, they figure, you know, we can put somebody up there, eye candy, and they don't have to be that talented. And I'm not taking nothing away from, what's her name, Beyonce?
No, she's eye candy.
I'm not taking
Take it away.
anything away from her. But it's like nobody ever seen somebody wiggle their hips. I mean, she makes all this money. She's shaking, you know, her booty and all that stuff. But we've had people that did that before that can sing, that can really sing. So, and I'm not being hard on her. She's not a true vocalist. I mean, if you listen to real singers, if you listen to Gladys Knight, and then you listen to her, it's so downhill. I'm just saying, you know, if y'all Beyonce fans, then just don't start throwing things at me. But, you know, but anyway, And we have to understand that our art forms are being stolen.
Yes.
Bill Jones has excellent books on that. He's no longer with us. He used to come to the Slave Theater, you know, but Culture Bandits, you know, I think it's what, a three-volume series, right?
I
Yes.
think might have been 4 too, yeah.
3.
Well, I got 1 and 3. I lent somebody, maybe somebody did. I lent number 2 to him, and I've never seen it. But you know, we have to get a little better. I don't know who got it, but somebody got my 2.
Somebody in here?
Nah, I'm just you know, man, you can't let people in your house no more. They say, oh, this is nice. Can I see that? Can I read it? But black organizations, real quick, what's the oldest civil rights organization? I got to move fast. What's the oldest?
NAACP.
NAACP, that's correct. Now, I said oldest intentionally. I didn't say first. I said oldest because they're obviously ones that's not around anymore. But NAACP is the oldest. What year was that?
1909.
1909. What organization came around a year later?
A year later. Niagara Movement?
No, that was.
No, Niagara Movement preceded.
Okay.
Niagara Movement
Right.
actually the Niagara Movement was an independent black powerful movement of independent blacks from all over the country.
Yes.
They actually morphed into what is now the NAACP.
Right.
But they were excellent. You know, they were excellent. You had Monroe Trotter and a whole lot of other real good people that were involved in that. And later, when it got morphed into the NAACP, that's when it started going downhill. But with black organizations, let's go through some real quick. NAACP, like you said, 1909, 1910 was the Urban League.
Really?
What's the purpose of the Urban League? Anybody know? What's the purpose of the NAACP? Anybody know real quick?
Wasn't that set up to rebuttal Marcus Garvey?
Civil rights.
That's true. That happened later, but not in 1909. There was no Marcus Garvey
Okay.
in 1909.
Civil rights,
lynching 14. Oh, right.
The man said it. Say it again.
Lynchings.
Lynching. That's what brought the NAACP to the fore. Lynching.
Oh.
There was a major lynching in Springfield, Illinois. Not upstate New York. It was in Springfield, Illinois, and Villiard and Ovington and all of them. These were white people. Could not believe this mass executions that was going on in Springfield of blacks. So they went up to actually the Niagara movement, to the prominent blacks, you know, of that day. And they actually alarmed them and told them and recruited them into their organization by financing it. And to this day, white folks finance the NAACP. We do not finance it. Consequently, they call the shots. They went for all the way from 1909 to something like 1948, close to 1950, with all the executive directors were Jewish. I think White was the first, Walter White was the first black executive director of the NAACP, and even with him, he could pass for white.
Yeah, because he was real.
You know, he could actually pass for white. He was a black man, and I give credit to anybody that looks that way that could pass, but they say they're a black man, similar to Adam Clayton Powell's father, you know, and Adam and all of them.
Powell?
What's that?
Colin Powell?
No, Adam Clayton Powell.
Colin passed for white?
No.
No, Colin can't pass for white. If you see Colin, regular brother, he just light skinned, that's all. He's the regular brother, but I'm talking about people that could actually pass for white, but they're black. You see it in some places in the Caribbean. You know, you might see it in Jamaica and other places, and Louisiana especially. You know, like Homer Ferguson.
Creoles.
and people like that, that you commonly call Creole, but these are people that, they have so many white people in their family.
High yellow.
But they could actually pass.
Take it easy.
So, don't worry, you can't pass. He want to be included with Walter White. No, you can't pass. No. You just a light-skinned one. You know, but Walter White was the one actually, and I keep stopping, but Walter White was the one who actually went down there when, what's her name, was killed, Mary Turner. When Mary Turner was killed, because her husband insisted on getting the money he was paid by a white person.
Correct.
And when the white person, see a white person, if you work for a white person back then, and I keep moving around, but if you work for a white person back then, at the end of the week, you expect to get paid, they can tell you, I'm not paying you, I'm not giving you nothing.
Right.
Who do you go to? Ain't nobody you can go to. But he told the authorities that I work for this man and he refused to pay me. The authorities locked him up, the sheriff. The local sheriff locked him up. Mary Turner, she went there to visit her husband, and he said, you know, you got to come see me on a regular basis because, something ain't right. And so she told them that I'm coming back to see my husband, and he better look the same way he looked when the last time I seen him. So she left, and they killed him. They killed him, and when they killed him, she went back to that same sheriff and told the sheriff he didn't hang himself. Y'all killed him. And she said that I'm going to make sure that there's going to be justice in this case. I'm going to expose what y'all did. Why did she say that? Immediately, she took off. They followed her, found her in the woods, and I don't even want to talk about it. They turned her upside down. And she was more than 8 months pregnant, and they turned her upside down, put a fire under her, cut her belly, the baby dropped out, they stomped him, and they did all kind of stuff to her. Well, so everybody knew about it. Walter White, since he could pass for white, went down there, and discovered it. So it was advantageous for the NAACP to have somebody that could actually go down. This is before he was executive director, and he went down there and was able to see it, and he was able to hear about it, not see it. But white folks tell other white folks, oh, you heard about such and such, this and this and that? Well, he was told actually that, which has happened a couple of times in our history, where he's getting on a train to come back to New York to report on it, because he's going to write a story on it, and the train conductor said, yo, man, you leaving now? He said, it's just getting hot. This happened, and said, man, look, man, it's a yellow nigga down here passing for white, and we going to catch him. He said, you can't leave now. You got to stay down there for it. Man, he got on that train and got straight back up here to New York to report it. Now, this was in Georgia where it happened. And, man, and the conductor actually told him, man, we got the word, man. There's a yellow nigga down here passing for white, and we going to get him. But I don't even know why I'm talking about that. But that happened. So in any event, he was the first executive director in the NAACP. The Urban League, what are they for? What's the Urban League for? What were they for? Now, every black organization, a part of their mission statement was for lynching, as the brother pointed out. So you don't have to say lynching again for any organization I named, because lynching was so prevalent among black folks that whatever your organization was meant to be informed for, a part of it was going to be lynching. Anyway, so the NAACP, lynching. What about the Urban League? Something on the Urban League real quick. Anything?
Jobs.
What?
Jobs.
Absolutely. Jobs. the Urban League was set up to measure and monitor the statistics around employment and unemployment of blacks. And, you know, you can throw in some racial harmony and all that other stuff in NAACP and other organizations. What about, real quick, what about SELC?
Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
What were they set up for?
Spirituality.
It wasn't spirituality, no.
She said it.
I mean, that Christian is in it, but it's not
She
spirituality.
said voter registration.
What?
She said voter registration. That's what she said.
No, that was SNCC.
Oh.
SNCC, no, SELC, they were just a continuation with respect to desegregating the South, because that morphed from the Montgomery Improvement Association. Y'all got that? Dr. King cut his teeth in the Montgomery Improvement Association with Rosa Parks and the whole thing around black folks being thrown off buses. But gotta move real quick. What about the Black Panther Party? What were they set up for? Now, that's not a traditional civil rights organization. I'm just throwing that in.
Feeding people.
Education.
No, that came much later.
Defense.
Education came much later.
Defense.
They were, say that again?
Self-defense.
That's part of the name. The whole name is the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense.
Self-defense.
What were they initially doing?
Justice.
Racial justice.
And feeding the community and the
Well,
children.
everybody does racial justice.
They
They originally started out monitoring the police because the police department in Oakland was so heavy-handed, beating people up and shooting, that they were monitoring the police. That's why they call the Black Panther Party self-defense. So I'm saying among black organizations, you have to know and get an understanding as to why did they form. Now these organizations like the reason why I'm telling you the Black Panther Party is because if they're formed, it's because the other civil rights organizations are not doing something. So there's a vacuum. There's a hole. Consequently, they were fulfilling a hole. Now,
Mike, did you miss the UNIA?
UNIA, Garvey, okay, yeah, because I'm moving fast. That's not a traditional civil rights organization. But eventually the NAACP, as somebody pointed out, was the counter to Marcus Garvey. That was a Pan-Africanist organization. They might not have been using that term at the time, but it was nationalist Pan-Africanist. It was not, and the Black Panther Party is not a traditional civil rights organization. They were just filling up a vacuum. Now, you know yourself that civil rights organizations, they do certain things. Now I'm moving kind of fast.
What
Now,
about
I'm
CORE?
going fast. I'm gonna pick it up.
What about CORE?
Now, CORE, Congress on Racial Equality, that's for CORE. They basically set up for sort of the same thing: racial harmony, racial understanding, to stop and cut down the segregation that was going on. That's what CORE was. That's a good question. So what I'm trying to say was that organizations were formed to fill needs. Who's filling the need? Who's filling the needs? Who's dealing with the ADL? Is there anybody? And is there an organization dealing with the ADL?
No.
What organizations are dealing with police oppression and aggression that's going on all over? Because we've already figured out
Black Lives Matter.
Give me a break.
Black Lives Matter.
White Lives
Okay, well, Black Lives Matter is not a black organization.
It's gay lives matter.
And I know some of you think it is, and maybe some of y'all support it. The Black Lives Matter is an organization of white people that have put up front in front of us some black lesbian women, and they are being supported by millionaires and billionaires.
Soros.
Well, he's not the only one,
The main one.
but he's the biggest because he's the first one to drop 25 million on from the jump and made them.
Didn't they
So
incorporate it as well?
what's that?
He LLC'd it as well. The LLC is in his name.
Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is that They took a paper organization, made them. In other words, they put them now. You can make that argument with Sharpton, how they made National Action Network something that it wasn't. Because white folks have that kind of power.
That's right.
You can make a black person who's not organically linked to our community, where their bosom interest does not reflect ours, and they can make them what they're not.
That's right.
They can make you or they can break you.
Yep. Justice
So-
Committee.
So, with respect to certain organizations were put there for a purpose. So Black Lives Matter, according to the definition, I'm using the definition that Adam Clayton Powell came up in his, when he talked about his Black Power paper that he said right there in the halls of Congress. You have to be black-led and black-financed and fighting for the interests of black people. That organization, Black Lives Matter, is fighting to normalize gay rights. And then even more perverted things than just gay rights. But that's something that's, you know, Sister Keisha knows much better than I, because I don't get too much into their paperwork. And they have organizations, Dr. Baruti, the Irritated Genie and others, they have gave that special interest and focus so they would know better. But I know that they are basically a gay rights organization. And consequently, they're not geared for the very things we give them credit for, challenging police murders and things like that. So I see Ray moving around, so I'm going to stop there. But when I come back, I'm going to do a brief thing on a little more civil rights, real briefly, and then I'm going to go to these recent developments of last week. But I'll stop right here. Okay, very quickly, can we get started in the back?
Okay, all right, Mike. That's it, brother.
That's why we got to get our food as soon as Ray give us that thing, so we can get back in a timely fashion. There was a couple of questions that I want people to maintain those questions because they were real good ones. But real quick, when you're talking about things like rape, there was a minister, and I intentionally didn't mention, like I said, the UNIA because it's not a traditional civil rights organization. But there was a minister. What was the minister? And I know some people know. Don't shout it out, but I want you to think about it for a minute. Name the minister who I'm going to say it. You're going to know, but that replaced that Dr. King replaced. Who was the minister that replaced Dr. King? I mean, that Dr. King replaced because he would not. And I know Keisha knows it, so you don't have to say it.
I forgot his name.
But this minister,
what is his name?
this minister was the one who would not allow a 15-year-old girl to be raped.
E.D. Nixon.
No, E.D. Nixon was a civil rights worker and a union organizer. He was in leadership in Montgomery already, E.D. Nixon. Actually, you know, he was the leader.
I know James L. Jones.
He was the leader. He was the leader of the movement there, but he wasn't a church member, so that he wasn't clergy. But that's a good one, E.D. Nixon, because he was one of the leaders in Montgomery, even during that time. But since you can't name him for me to move fast, it was Vernon John.
Yes, thank you, brother.
It was Reverend Vernon John.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
the church, he got removed from the church, and this is what I'm saying when I talk about filling holes, and when somebody has to fill a vacuum. This girl was raped no different than a whole lot of other black girls who were raped. Could somebody just tell them to hold it down a little bit, just kind of hold it down? She was raped no different than a lot of other 15-year-old girls because white men could get away with it. All through the South, these rapes went on. So in this particular case, she was able to identify her attacker. When she identified her attacker, the onus was now on black men. What you gonna do? Well, it was Reverend Vernon Johns, who decided to do something about it. So he went to the authorities. He went to the authorities and insisted that this white guy who did it, a young white guy who did it, be jailed. And his church, it was actually his church that told him to let it go. His church told him it's already happened. This was this was a couple of years before they eventually settled on Dr. King at Dexter. He was the pastor of Dexter. And he insisted on this white guy being arrested for raping this 15-year-old girl. And his church said, no, let it go because it was dangerous. I mean, these times now is easy in comparison.
Yes.
So none of you have anything to complain about. These days, it's easy. That's why a black woman could be stabbed on Church Avenue in a train station with all these black people around. A white guy just slashed her and walked away. He didn't even run. Because look what we've been reduced to. Just sick. You know, this is grapes reduced to raisins. I mean, when you think about the character and the courage that it took to be a black man and woman back then. So Reverend John, he insisted on this white guy being arrested. Do you know his church got rid of him?
Yeah, the board voted him off.
Right. Every church, especially Baptist churches back then, Pentecostal churches are structured a little differently. But in the Baptist church, they have a board of elders.
Right.
And these executives are the ones that pick the pastor. When the pastor leaves or transitions, they're the ones that pick the new pastor. And they got rid of Reverend Vernon John. They considered him too controversial because his sermons were challenging black men to be better and stronger. And in that case, he wouldn't let it go. Consequently, they got rid of him. When they got rid of him, they went through a couple other people, and then because they was looking for a young pastor that wasn't controversial, somebody they could mold into the role that they wanted. And as I said, they ended up picking Dr. King, who was young, fresh out of the seminary, had never pastored, even though he go back a couple of generations of pastors. His father and his father's, I think, uncle. So he's going through a few generations of pastors and, his brother and all. So he settled there and ended up at Dexter Baptist Church, and then the Montgomery thing happened. Those other pastors who had been there for years did not want to touch what happened to Rosa Parks. They didn't want to touch it. That's why he eventually became the leader. It wasn't because he was more brilliant or better spoken than the rest of them. It's just that they didn't want that pressure on their church, so they elected the new guy in town and said, you do it. And even though against his father's advice, he took the job as the spokesperson for the Montgomery
But he was a good orator.
Association. Yeah, he was a good orator, but it took courage. Abernathy and all the other guys who was there for a while, they could speak too. But they wanted somebody young, and they wanted somebody who they could blame it all on if it falls in their face. So they picked him. But in any event, that's what ended up being SCLC. But we talk about the early days, and Reverend John stood up to them. And that's what all these organizations was primarily formed because there was a vacuum somewhere. And you know, later on, what's Rainbow Push, where did that start at? Chicago.
Shut down.
Where is it from?
Fred Hampton Senior created that Rainbow Coalition. He's the one who started that.
That's right.
He
Well,
created
it's a little different. Well, the name, but let's not mistake it. That was
Jesse. No.
Jesse. Jesse. No,
Jesse stole that.
Rainbow Push is from. First of all, it morphed from in 1971. He had Push, People United to Save Humanity. And then in '84, he formed the Rainbow Coalition because he was running for president. And then in '96, he combined the two, right? So now you got Rainbow Push. Now, before that happened, he was already forming the Wall Street Project, which is his money maker. That's how he shakes down Wall Street and get that money. And of course, Reverend Sharpton followed suit with what? The Madison Avenue Initiative, right? Where now you can shake down Madison Avenue. That's why he controls the advertising in New York. You can't get a job, you can't, you know, if you got a job in radio and TV and all that stuff, most of that goes through Sharpton. If he wants you out, you out. If he likes you, you know, you in, you know, which is, you know, Earl Lewis and all of them people that just support whatever he's doing. The other guys, the whole KISS crew that's now BLS, he in charge of all of it. You know, as I said on, I think it was on Keisha's show, I said that he was the one that took out Baisden. Am I saying right?
Michael Baisden.
Baisden?
Baisden, yeah.
Baisden. Michael Baisden. They took him out.
Chicago.
The minute Baisden said that he was the man behind the Gina 6, he had to go.
That's right. That's exactly.
He said he took credit for getting thousands of people to go down to Gina, Louisiana.
Right.
And so he when he took credit and said that all them people were listening to my show, and I encouraged them to go down to Gina, Rev said, "Oh yeah," took him out. He's not heard in the tri-state area. I don't know. He's probably still doing radio, but he ain't doing radio up here no more.
But one of them
Rev took him out.
2020.
You know, but in any event, let me just move real quickly to the Capitol. Real quick. And I'll ask you if any of the organizations we named or any other organization can address these things. And I know y'all got some questions already. In the Capitol, you had a case where a sitting president, as you well know, and I'm going to say some things that are academic, things that are automatic, you already know. You had a sitting president who has a history, and whether if you go back to the birth of stuff, whether you want to hear him talk about Arabs and the ban he did on Arabs, especially those that were Muslim, whether you talking to him, you know, with the xenophobic stuff, the Mexicans, that Mexicans were drug dealers and rapists.
What about executing the Central Park?
Well, that was much earlier. That was him before he was in elective office. Well, you know that he put out a full-page ad saying that they should receive the death penalty for that rape. And well, of course he's not going to apologize. Raymond Kelly and all of them, none of them apologized for what the police department did and what the detectives who lied on everything and trumped up the charges, charged people that weren't even in the park, and even illegally interrogated children. You cannot get questions from a child without a guardian present.
They wasn't there.
A guardian, a parent, or a lawyer. You can't interrogate them like that without that permission first. So that was illegal. And then when you put in the fact that they were starving them over that night, shining lights in their face, sleep deprivation, they did so many illegal things to those children that they got them to start telling on each other, even though it didn't happen. They said, well, we know you didn't do it, but I know you saw somebody, I'm gonna let you go home, but didn't somebody hold her legs? You saw so-and-so hold her legs, right? So-and-so, didn't he hold her arms down? I know you didn't do it, but you saw it, right? And so if you get the promise to go home and you've been deprived of sleep, you hungry, you scared, and you looking at the next 20, 25 years you're gonna be in jail, and the guy tell you, well, I'm gonna let you go home, but just tell me, didn't T-Bone, didn't Unique and Wise, they held them down, right? You didn't do it, but they did it. Yeah. That's what happened. Okay, sign this. They go to the next guy, pull him in the room. Yo, you didn't so-and-so do such and such? That's how they got there. So that was all illegal, and we know that Trump, called for the death penalty for all of them.
Police commissioner was black too.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
Came later.
No.
No. Ben Ward
That
wasn't, that wasn't Ben Ward.
That
wasn't Ben Ward.
No. Ben Ward by then was out and actually at that time, truth be told, he was suffering from alcoholism and all that, but I don't want to get into that. But anyway, my point is that when certain situations arise, who has the answer to it? So Trump had that history. So in any event, with all the things that he did, and he was impeached a little over a year ago, he does this, he incited people. Now these people were everything from the Oath Keepers, Boogaloo, Proud Boys, various militias from all over the country. They were there. I mean, when you see a lieutenant colonel, Air Force retired lieutenant colonel, with a Kevlar helmet on and a flak jacket, this is all business. They're not playing. When you see guys scaling walls, you say, wait. That's military and paramilitary training. They scaling walls. They could go up the steps and bum rush like everybody else. They showing off. They showing their skills. They scaling walls. You see 5 or 6 of them at a time going up the wall. Say that right away. Right when I saw that, I said, no, that's training. That ain't no weekend Joe. Just having a beer. Oh, that's real training. They're not playing. So, and you see certain patches on. It lets you know that this was organized. And so you had the president, his son, Don Trump Jr., you had Giuliani, and that's not a new for Giuliani. Giuliani led a police riot against Dayton.
Yes.
And was calling them all kind of N-words, called them a washroom attendants. I'm going to keep my language clean since the tape is here. But he did all of that, so that wasn't you doing. And when I think of Giuliani, I'll never forget him ordering that helicopter to come down on the Million Man.
Yes, sir.
And we were so congested, 100 blacks, we were there, and it was tight.
Yes.
And you had all kind of people there. You had black women with baby carriages, babies and stuff. And that helicopter came down. You could actually see the driver.
Come on.
It came down to the 3rd floor. I looked at that helicopter, and you feel you feel that wind on you. It was at the 3rd floor. It was on the street. It came down that close, and people are running into each other, trampling each other. And we there grabbing. I remember yesterday, I'm grabbing a sister that had a baby carriage, and I looked and it was some other hands grabbing her, and it was Conrad Muhammad. We both grabbing the same sister at the same time, saying, sister, stop, don't run. Because she's running with the baby and another person is running and they going at each other. I remember that like yesterday. When I grabbed the sister's carriage and our little comrade grabbed her too. And I was like, yo, stop, sis, just stay still. Stay still, go that way. Don't go that way because the crowd moving, you know, so we there trying to help, you know. We're supposed to be the professionals. So, but I looked and I see, well, I won't even tell you what my instincts were when I looked at a helicopter right there. I'm not going to say it with the tape. Y'all want to get me, y'all want me to say it. I'm looking at y'all, y'all say it.
No, no.
Don't say it, Mike.
Tell them what the
I'm
lady
looking
said.
at y'all, and some of y'all say it. And it's going on YouTube too.
Mike, tell them what the lady said.
Don't say nothing.
So anyway, we saw that happen. I'm just saying my instincts are the instincts of a black man, a real black man. Now you figure it out.
There you go.
An unapologetic one. So, and like I said, it was only on the 3rd floor. It was only on the 3rd floor. So you didn't need a long arm, you know, a side arm was enough, but for somebody else, it wasn't me. But anyway, you know, so I'm just saying that's in their character to do things like that. Totally unnecessary. Had that move been a real law enforcement move, then I would say, okay, that was wrong. That was wrong to bring a helicopter there, and he boasted about it. He didn't say Chief so-and-so did it. He said, damn it, I did it. That's what he said on the air that very same night. He said, don't blame this chief and don't blame so-and-so who was on site. He said, I ordered it. Because he felt he was the police commissioner and did something, and he jumped the gun because the time wasn't up. Dr. Collins hadn't even spoke yet. He had just was getting ready to start speaking when they said, go in. And we had saw all the places earlier, and we had people in community affairs, so we knew where they were stationed. And we got the word that they were coming, so we was trying to, you know, get people ready. But in any event, I'm glad they got Dr. Collins out because it would have been bad if he didn't want to go. And people, you know, we had people on the stage that told him, no, go. Dr. Collins, go. But in any event, these things have happened before. You well know that the Capitol building was destroyed before.
Yes.
The Capitol building in 1814 was destroyed in the War of 1812. America had sent troops up to Ontario, Canada, and they destroyed the British.
To me, as if people don't know that.
Okay.
I thought that was very
So,
unusual.
okay, got you. So when they destroyed that installation in 1813, the British came back. They said, okay, y'all want to make a move? I got something for you. So they snuck, got in there, they came in the harbor, they destroyed the Capitol building, the White House, and the Treasury building. They did all three of them. And so white folks being white folks, they're going to invent a story that Dolly Madison, who was the first lady at that time, that she saved George Washington's portrait. They made that up. I forgot the brother's name, and forgive me for that. I forgot the brother's name who saved George Washington's portrait. Him along with some other enslaved Africans. They were the ones that put her in a coach and got her out of there before the British got there. She was in the White House, and the British was coming, and they were coming strong, and she was trying to get, truth be told, her silverware out. You know, but it was the black man, Paul something. If I had a minute, I would call Harold now. Harold knows the name. I forgot the name. But the person, was it?
Dunbar?
No, it wasn't Paul Lawrence Dunbar.
Paul Mooney.
Paul Mooney. So anyway, they say they actually got the portrait, folded it up, and got on a wagon and got out there and got out and beat the British by a few minutes and got out and got her out. Because at the time she was more concerned about silverware and all that stuff, you know, plates and spoons and forks and all that crap. But later she was given the credit for saving Washington's portrait. So in any event, it's happened before. So when it happened the other day, people were taken back by that. But you have to understand white anger, and I'm just covering things that they didn't cover. You have to understand the buildup of having a black family in the White House for 8 years. See, Trump was not running against Hillary Clinton. He's running against Obama.
That's right.
So everything was Obama did this, Obama did that, Obama. Cruz and them was running against Hillary Clinton. Cruz, Rubio, Jeb Bush. They were running against Hillary Clinton. Trump took it to the streets and went after President Obama and just said every vulgar thing you could say, and he was capitalizing on white anger. That build up over those 8 years Obama was in, and then seeing prominent blacks with responsible jobs, either in the tech industry, Wall Street, entertainers, the top entertainers are black, the top sports figures are black. So, what's that?
We had that before.
Yeah, but he took advantage of it because those are not areas that political figures debate. So it got angry. So now you have a situation where they took over a public building. Did anybody hear from a police officer was killed? Did anybody hear from the PBA?
No.
Nobody heard anything?
No.
Did you hear anything from the FOP?
No. What's FOP?
What's the FOP?
Fraternal Order of Police. That's nationwide. Anywhere where there's not a police union, they come in. So all over the country, the FOP is large. That's why you see a lot of guys have FOP license plates. So when they get caught speeding in Maryland and all them other places, they get a courtesy. So you didn't hear from the FOP?
No.
Did you hear from the Thin Blue Line?
No. They have flags in the main layout.
No. Did you hear from the Thin Blue Line?
They were participating is my point.
Did you hear from Blue Lives Matter?
No. They have flags there as well.
Well, how do you not hear from them and a police officer was killed?
That's right.
Some of them went to march.
Why?
Because that's what I just.
Because they participate. First responders all over the place. That's why. Because it's curious. You never, look, Pat Lynch, if the police officers shoot a black man that was unarmed, not in the commission of a crime, he still come out and call that family animal.
Right.
You the victim, he'll call you an animal, a mutt, a movie, and all these other terms that he used to describe, to get on you. Well, why he ain't say nothing to real animals that killed a cop? Did you see that scene of a black cop running?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now they can flip it all they want. Now a week later, we already did the show and showed you that we have too many people in law enforcement that have a predisposition to white flesh, the deference they give to white flesh.
Why didn't
Here he being chased and he can't turn around and hit him. As a matter of fact, that Negro was so afraid he dropped his baton. Did you see him? He dropped his baton. The Negro was so scared he started backing up and reached down and picked it back up, and the white cat came right up to him and he ran up a flight of stairs. The white dude kept coming, ran up another flight of stairs. The white dude kept coming, ran up a third flight of stairs where there were other white cops. And that's when the white guy stopped. When he had to confront other white cops.
He never pulled out his gun.
No, he didn't pull out his gun.
Not one time.
Now, had black people been chasing him, what would he have done?
Would have been fired.
Please. Are you kidding me?
I saw on TV.
Okay, hold on, sis. let me just wrap 5 more minutes and then we'll open it up. So, I'm saying that happened Another cop died later, so there is a second cop that's dead.
Yeah.
You know, it is a second cop now. So actually 6 people died. You saw the white cop that they trapped in a door,
Yeah.
and they crushing him, and he's yelling.
Yep.
Nobody pulled out their gun. Why?
They all,
Because they were all white.
right.
They won't shoot white people because they knew that was Trump's people. They gave deference to Trump's people. They were all said they were paramilitary, military. They were first responders. They had on all kind of patches, as was pointed out. They had military. Like I said, who goes to a peaceful demonstration in a Kevlar helmet and a flak jacket? As a matter of fact, that cat got caught. They arrested him in Texas. He was the one with all those flex cuffs.
Yep.
They said, well, what were you doing? What were you planning on doing when the authorities arrested him? They said, what were you doing with the flex cuffs? You know what he said? Oh, they were on the floor. I picked them up. I mean, what was he supposed to say? I brought them there? I mean, you're not a good police officer if you don't know how to lie.
That's right.
Best liars in the world. So, no, they support the lie. The lawyers support the lie. And now they will give you a story if you need a story, but they're gonna look at you later and say that cop's stupid. If you need somebody to give you a story, so he did what he a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. Of course he ain't gonna admit, well, I brought them from home. He said, no, I said they were on the floor. I picked them up. But they saw him. He claimed he didn't go into an office, but they saw him go into Clyde Burns or Pelosi's, one of them. He went into one of their offices. So in any event, I'm going to stop there and open up for questions, but I'm just showing you that when you got these paramilitary and these militias, they are set up, and it was set up to do what they did. And just one last question, and then we get started on the Q&A. Is illegal entry on the books already? Is it on the books? Illegal entry?
On the Capitol?
Is breaking and entering on the books?
Yes.
Is riot on the books already? Is inciting the riot on the books?
Yes.
Is felony murder on the books already?
Yes.
So why are they saying it's so hard to lock all these people up? They don't have to make no new laws. Just use the laws that are there already.
Enforce them. That's right.
Now, did Donald Trump Jr. and Donald Trump and Giuliani, did they incite a riot?
Most definitely.
Did the riot in turn illegally go into a federal building?
Yes.
Did they assault people?
Yes.
Was there a felony murder?
Yes.
So why are they acting like it's so hard to do this?
Because they wait.
Because they might, there you go.
This thing is easy. You talk about a ground ball, a first-year law student can indict them and then convict them.
That's right.
He don't have to have gone through 3 years of law school.
You can eat like a
Easy.
ham sandwich.
You talk about a ground ball. This one is easy, but I'll stop right there and open it up to any.
Well, they
questions you
got cameras.
Yes.
They got cameras everywhere.
We're gonna go with hands.
One thing is, maybe I missed something. What is the proof that Trump and the other person, or his sons,
Yeah.
incited this riot?
Twitter.
Because not only Twitter, if you're going with the Twitter argument, that's from a month prior. He told them January 6th, come to DC, it's gonna be wild.
Oh, okay.
That was in his
He made
tweet.
statements.
Now the statements that he made on the morning of, he said you gotta fight. Giuliani said you gotta kick some butt, you know. Y'all can say it, y'all, yeah. So he said, you gotta kick some butt, you gotta use force. Donald Trump Jr. said straight up, we gotta take it. You gotta fight, you can't go there weak. And Donald Trump, President Trump said the same thing. You can't go there weak. Giuliani said trial by combat.
Well, who were they fighting?
Whitey versus Whitey.
This is white people fighting white people. Sister Keisha always say, when white people fight white people, just stay out of the way. And that's what you're supposed to do.
white on white crime.
When white people are fighting, you get your popcorn or Doritos, whatever you eat, and watch it. That's what you're supposed to do. Yes, brother.
What the thing that I'm concerned about is they only got a couple of them people they arrested and all that when they got cameras everywhere.
Right.
You know, nowadays you walk down the street, they got you on camera, and they should lock them about 100 people.
Okay, well here's what they've already did over 100, but if you're talking about a crowd of 8,000, then I want to see a few thousand people arrested. Now the FBI is involved. Why is the FBI involved? Only because a cop was killed.
It was domestic.
Only because a cop was killed. If a police officer was not killed on federal grounds, they would have been left up to the Capitol Police. And the Capitol Police were complicit.
Yes, they were.
All right? They were complicit. Now, and I'm not even going by the selfies. I'm not going by the MAGA hats. I'm going by their conduct.
Right, the fact they let them in the building.
You don't let a cop, he's screaming in the middle of a door, and they push him, squeezing him like a boa constrictor. They squeezing him. And he yelling, and all these cops standing behind him, they all got guns, and nobody just went right to the door and started blasting. They would have done that, if blacks had done something like that, they would have laid waste to that whole corridor.
They've been walking over bodies.
Everybody would have got it. Now in Ferguson, real quick, in Ferguson,
They call it National Guard.
they had LRADs out there. They had MRAPs out there.
50 caliber.
An LRAD is the one that'll give you a sonic boom. Ferguson is only 21,000 people. Here you talking about 8, 9 million in the city, close to 20 million in the state. Now you don't know, you have no idea what NYPD, what Chicago, what Atlanta, what Newark, and all of them have. I'm just talking about a little place like Ferguson. They broke out with that kind of stuff. The MRAP, that urban cannon, that you can throw improvised weapons at it and it does nothing to it. So those pipe bombs wouldn't have had an effect on the MRAP. So I'm just saying, they could just take the LRAD and boom your eardrums, bust your eardrums. When somebody's eardrums are bust, what happens to you?
Can't hear nothing.
Can't hear shit.
It's not only you can't
Bleed
hear,
out.
your balance is gone.
Bleed out.
You're going right down to the ground. When your eardrums bust, you're going to walk like this and you're going down. You are helpless.
Incapacitated.
You're incapacitated. That's what you are. So you didn't see none of that at the Capitol building. How many snipers did you see?
None. Secret Service? None.
Then what are we talking about here? No snipers. How many helicopters? Come on, give me a number.
None. It was about.
You mean there was no
I didn't
helicopters?
see any.
It was.
The Capitol building.
It was.
No helicopters?
I didn't see any.
It was none.
And y'all think that y'all don't understand how complicit this was?
We do.
Am I?
understand.
No snipers, no helicopters. How, you mean all it takes is 1 or 2 helicopters to start dropping tear gas and disperse the crowd?
That's it.
So why didn't it happen? Why did it take the National Guard 4 hours to show up?
Stand down. Stand down.
They was activated 4 or 5 hours before.
Four
out there at
hours.
night.
Go ahead, brother.
My brother is Capitol Police. He recently.
Your brother?
My brother.
Okay.
He recently. I said, yo, how did all that go on? He said they were told to stand down long before the victim place.
Okay. Okay, that's some inside proof right here.
I have a question. Do you think the military intelligence was among the crowd? And
Was it? They had military people there.
I'm talking about
Military intelligence.
like agents.
Yes, well here's what, I'm glad you said that. You have to remember that in most states, a governor can dispense and discharge the National Guard. DC is one of the only places where, even though the mayor is the executive, the chief officer is the mayor, but she cannot do it. she has to call the Department of Defense. The Secretary of Defense or his designee has to bring in the National Guard. She can't do it. They're not a state. Now, Virginia can do it. Virginia had his guys ready. They wouldn't let him enter. To enter, if you're in another state, to enter, you normally can do it into another state, into Maryland, or if North Carolina, somebody needed assistance, you can bring the National Guard in. You can't bring them into D.C. without the Department of Defense. You gotta call the Pentagon.
But the Pentagon.
But why was the Pentagon compromised?
Commander-in-Chief is Trump.
The Commander-in-Chief. Thank you. The Commander-in-Chief.
And they know everything surrounding me. I stayed at a hotel directly across the street, coming home from a family reunion. We ordered some food, it was late that night. Before we can place our order, the man on the phone gave my address, my husband's name, everything, even the vehicle he drove.
Wow.
Because they have that intelligence when you stay that close to the border.
That is the most secure area in America. Right there. So you can say, well, Mike, you want all that black stuff, but I asked you how many helicopters you saw. You gave me the number.
0.
I asked you how many snipers got busy.
0.
All it takes is a few helicopters to disperse whatever chemical agent they chose to do, and the crowd was scamming. Yes, some of the military that was there did have gas masks, but the majority of them didn't have it. You could make them all scatter, like roaches when the lights come on.
Listen, that is the capital, and they have plans, because that is where the Senate and Congress is. They have plans to evacuate everybody in there under any nuclear condition.
And think about it.
Bunkers.
You had the vice president. No, they went to a bunker. No, they have various places where they can bunker down. You know, that's not a problem. And had you seen a foreign government attack, they have plenty of locations all throughout D.C. that you don't know. It looks like a regular building. It's not. That wall can move and stairs go down, all kind of stuff they got in D.C. And I got that from people that know. You got things that look like a statue. That statue moving, missiles will come right out of the ground. Oh no, they're more than prepared for a foreign government or a foreign attack. It just shows you that there was complicity in this one.
Just make a point, DC has 4 military bases, 5 minutes away from that.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then
They didn't have to wait for the National Guard. They could have used regular soldiers if they wanted to. They didn't need the National Guard, where sometimes the National Guard, it takes them a few hours because they got regular jobs. But the full-time military all over the place.
Well, when he went to the church and picked the Bible up, they used the military.
They had horses too. They had horses too.
And the Secretary of Defense was there.
Yeah.
That's why he can command, full military. Yes,
No,
Doctor.
I'm just going to say that they say he signed an executive order last Wednesday, instituting they call the Stanford Act, which puts D.C., as they say, the executive order says that he, the President of the United States, is stating that the people of Washington, D.C. have an emergency due to the inauguration, and that he's initiating the Stanford Act, which automatically brings in the FEMA and the Homeland Security.
Yeah.
Then he said he's going to bring in 15,000 troops.
It's going to be more than that.
Yeah, it's going to be more than that.
It's going to be more than that.
Martial law court.
They've already alerted as many as 60 to 70,000 military, but they're going to have a minimum of 20,000 people, 20,000 soldiers on the day of the inauguration.
And just remember that they can bring it up to martial law anytime they want, when they want to do it. Just remember, they bombed.
Well, right now, as we speak, they're supposed to be limiting the power of Trump That's why Pelosi, that was just political theater. See, when you say, well, look, he has the nuclear codes, and you call the chair, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and you tell the chair, you know, what's up with the nuclear codes? And he assures Congress that it will not be implemented. Now that's Colin Powell's former position, chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, because it has to go through a chain of command. It don't go from the president to the people that's got the buttons. No, it goes through a few people, which is commonly called safeguards. So they have been alerted already because they knew it already. That's why something like that that's supposed to be secret, Pelosi put that out there to make it look like she's serious about it. Because right now, the structure is not going to allow Donald Trump to unleash nuclear weapons. So if he out of nowhere wants to attack Iran or somebody, they're not going to allow it. So he's already been, to a certain degree, neutered. But she wanted everybody to know she wants to take credit for doing it.
There's one other thing. Under these martial laws and what they're putting in the military in any country, the ultimate authority is the military. So when you have whatever they're doing, the ultimate authority is still not with this president here, is with the military structure of the United States, whatever way they have it. It's not
Well, I know all of y'all know that if martial law is implemented,
Constitution is out.
constitutional rights are suspended. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mention that, but we all know that. That in the military, as Dr. Lewis said, the military is in charge.
Right.
We all know that, right?
Sure.
That in that event of martial law is implemented, the military is now in charge.
Right.
So it's no longer Congress. It's no longer the legislative branch. It's no longer the executive branch. The only reason why the president can dictate during those times is because he's commander-in-chief. He has two titles.
But once when they put it in, it's the military.
It's the military that's in
running
charge.
DC,
Those generals.
and when they decide to extend it, it's going to be the military.
The Pentagon.
Let's mention one thing. We had on the radio and we're talking about the what do you call this virus. You're already under military law. When the government of the United States declares is a medical emergency, national emergency, that's why they quarantine you. You can't come out. You already under martial law. Now, through the country. When you can't get on the plane, you can't leave the country, you gotta be quarantined. That's martial law.
Y'all understand that? That the military will be in charge?
Under martial law. Now.
In other words, the military is always in charge. And on a local level, if you having a problem in your family, a dispute, when you call the police and they come to your house, you're no longer in charge.
That's right.
So you might have called them and you opened up the door. But once you open up that door and they tell you to shut up, that's on you. Because you let them in. Once you let them in, they're going to decide who's going to be arrested or whether there's going to be an arrest. So just understand.
Hold on. Let the man explain himself.
And that's a caution, you know, that's a caution that we should all know. And when the military's in charge and you step outside, they're only going to tell you once, step back in the door. Look no further than what happened in Newark during the Newark riots. Once the military give you that order, there's no negotiate. Well, hold on, I just want to check. No, you better step back in that door. Or that M16 going to get busy. It's that simple. When the military's in charge, they're in charge. And this is why these times, when you see dry runs and you see some of these false flag things, you know, you got to understand what you're looking at. Before Malcolm was assassinated, they did a dry run at the Audubon. All right? No, not to get your hands out of my pocket. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, they saw the setup because it was a few things they did prior in front of a crowd just to see how it would go. And actually, his bodyguard reported it. You know, his bodyguard was with, you know, Gene Roberts. He was a part of a secret detail. And what's that?
BOSS.
Yeah, boss. And he reported it to his superior officers, and they told him not to worry about it because, see, he was able to recognize a dry run. This is why it's so important when Ray talk about whether it's Amos Wilson, whether it's Dr. Bennett, Dr. Clark, they're giving you information, valuable information, and you have to recognize it on the level where you at. So if I say you that the military does this, or if I tell you a local police agency does X, Y, and Z, you're going to have to be able to recognize that. And understand, you know, once you bring them to your doorstep, you're not in charge. So this thing in D.C., we all know that the academic part, if those were black people, they would have been laid waste to them. But these people are well trained. You saw them scale walls. You saw them strategically draw a police officer out halfway out the door. They dragged them out and beat the stuffing out of them.
Yes, they did.
You all saw it?
Yes. Beat him like he stole a gun on YouTube.
The only Capitol police officer shot that woman who was climbing in the window because they had already broke the window on the side, and then you had the two windows here and then the one on the other side. She tried to come in on that side, and that cop wasn't having it.
No, they said he did it by mistake.
She was.
Oh yeah, it was a mistake. Well, we get those mistakes too often.
You know, but when they do it, if it was a mistake, like I really feel it was, because everybody would start shooting at him. If it was one of us, everybody would start.
Right, but they get ready to get in the door, and what happened after he shot her? Everybody backed the hell up.
That's right.
So that could have happened in quite a few places, and that cop life could have been spared.
That's right.
Instead of them beating them to death with a fire extinguisher.
Question, you said NAACP wasn't the oldest?
No, I said they wasn't the first.
Oh.
They're the oldest.
Who's the first?
No, there were a lot of organizations we had. They didn't survive. You know, like I said, they had black churches that engineered insurrections. You had black churches that organized tours of duty where black folks would be on patrol while the rest of the people were sleeping. You had black folks right here in New York when we had the lower part of Manhattan. You had black folks that had to do their community service, which was you would do 8 hours, then another person would do 8 hours, because the South was bringing people up to the New York harbor and enslaving blacks. If you catch a black person, that's a few $1,000s, and that was a lot of money back then.
Yep.
If you catch some black people and you take them back on that boat down south, you rich. If you get 2 slaves, you rich. I mean rich. So you go from dirt poor to rich. So they were sending ships up there, grabbing free Africans and taking them down south and becoming rich. So we had that then. We don't have that now. You can't get the average black person to walk around and patrol. You say, well, look, can the next couple hours, can you patrol the block? Man, please. That might work once or twice, and that's about it.
Well, they said that once this integration came into existence, that we lost a whole lot of things, because we had our own, the Chitlin Circuit, all hotels, all kinds of entertainment.
Yeah.
We had established a whole community.
Primarily with black baseball, and everything else followed suit. Once they destroyed black baseball, the Negro Leagues. Once you were able to go to a white hotel and white dining outlets, Bernard is absolutely right. That destroyed the black economy. I mean, once you had people that made money off just taking photos at high school graduations. Once that stuff, white photographers was able to come into black areas, and once white folks' ice, I guess, is colder than our ice, and their sugar is sweeter than our sugar, so we started patronizing them. And so, like you said, the insurance companies, banks, credit unions and all that, they destroyed all of that. We had all of that. Yes, Dr. Lewis.
I just want to emphasize again for you to think about it. They put Washington D.C. under martial law because of this incident. Now, if they say that whoever it is going to march on each capital, 50 capitals.
50 capitals.
If you have, ask yourself the question. Let's say that in any instance where any group of people attack or charge any of these local state capitals, the president to pick up the phone, put that state under martial law. So every time this happened, the precedent has been set to put in the martial law if you have a repeat of this in any of the states.
Let me ask you a question real quick. I know we got a lot of black elected officials in the country, and certainly we have a lot of black elected officials in New York City. When Camila Brock was taken in by the police department, that's Camila Brock is a young sister, 20-something years old, who owned literally a brand new BMW at the time, and she was a bank executive. And they rolled up on her when she stopped at a light. She was just had her music on and she was like dancing in the car. PD rolled up on her, took her in, arrested her, and asked her where did she get the car. She said, I bought the car, I'm a bank executive. They didn't believe her. They took her back to the precinct. They found out that she in fact was a bank executive and that she owned the car. What did they do? They didn't let her go. They took her to a psych ward. They took her to a psych ward, and for the next 8 days, they pumped the drugs into her. Psychotropic drugs in her. Now, what elected official helped her? Give me a name.
Yeah, what year was it?
This happened a few years ago. About 4 years ago. Give me a name. What elected official helped her? President Obama. He didn't help, what's his name, in Florida. He said that looked like his son. His son.
Trayvon.
Yeah, Trayvon Martin. He ain't helped Trayvon Martin. So we got all these black elected officials just in case, because I'm only saying that because Dr. Lewis talked about martial law. And you would think, well, who's gonna respond to martial law? We got a whole lot of black people that got titles in New York City. A lot. You know. But what does it mean? If a sister can be locked up, driving her own car, late model, expensive BMW, and when they found out the car wasn't stolen, they said, oh, we got something for you, you think you smart, and put her in a psych ward. And it took 8 days for her to get out.
It ain't the first time they did that.
No, it's not the first time. No, they've done that
Who
plenty
was
of
the
times.
first? Who was the official that helped her?
What's that?
Who was the official who helped her?
No, after 8 days, an attorney came. You know, her family got an attorney. They was looking for her because they didn't even know what she was. The attorney came and he demanded her release. He got her out because she wasn't crazy.
No.
Did she sue?
Me and Noel Leader went to the hospital for a police officer who had was at variance with the mayor because the mayor put out a rule during the time. If you was employed by the city, you probably know about. There was a time in the mid-90s, early 90s, where they were doing this sovereign thing, where people wasn't paying their taxes. Transit, police, correction, sanitation, fire department. A lot of people wasn't paying their taxes because they were doing either one or two things. They were claiming to be sovereign, claiming to be Moors, or they was claiming that put 99 in that box. So that went on. That police officer, and it went down from the top. From all the chiefs on down, that police officers better pay their taxes. And so everybody had a window to correct that. Well, this police officer said, no, it ain't nobody's business. If I'm sovereign, I'm sovereign. And he went up to, and they tried to set him up and beat the stuff out of him in Harlem. And so what he did was he went to the Dr. Martin Luther King thing when they used to have it on Common Avenue. Y'all remember that? On his birthday, they would have a big to-do at Common Avenue Church.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so he went there, and in front of Giuliani and Safer, he opened up his jacket. He had his bulletproof vest on, but he didn't have his gun. He just opened up his jacket, and Intel all had their guns trained on.
Wow.
And he said, they trying to kill me. He wanted to put it out to the public. He said, the police department is trying to kill me. He's a cop. He said, they're trying to kill me. Well, they arrested him, but he didn't do anything wrong. All he said was, they trying to kill me, and he opened up his coat. This is to show you how they treat black cops. They took him downstairs and held him downstairs. What's his name was walking by? H. Carl McCall. Y'all remember him?
Yeah.
H. Carl McCall? H. Carl McCall was walking by. So if he never did anything in his life for black people, I can say he did one thing. H. Carl McCall, the guy recognized H. Carl McCall, and he said, you know, he said, look at me, man. He said, look at me, they gonna kill me, they gonna kill me. And he said, what's your name? And you know, certain guys like that normally don't even do that. But he thrust himself into it and said, what's your name? And the guy told him his name, and he said, look, man, they're gonna kill me. He said, don't leave, they're gonna kill me. And he told the police officers, I'm so-and-so, you know, H. Carl McCall, I'm the state controller, and I'm gonna be back to find out if anything is wrong with this young man. So they knew that they couldn't kill him, and they knew that he was illegally being arrested. So they put him in a psych ward. And me and Noel Leader went to see him in the psych ward because we got it, well, I won't tell you where we got it from, but somebody told us. Somebody that didn't have to tell us, told us, and we went to visit him in a psych ward. They was hitting him with drugs. And we were talking to him for a while, and when his head cleared, he told us what happened. And, you know, we took care of business with the administrator and we put the administrator on notice. These are the things that 100 blacks do without no cameras around and nothing else. And we told that administrator that this is going to come on him. He said it's not going to be on the mayor, it's going to be on you. If you don't release this man, he has done nothing wrong.
Last question.
Okay, last one.
Nick Perry supposedly passed a law in New York
We'll let you
City
do
saying
it,
they
say a
can come to
question
your
after.
door and vaccinate you.
Say that again?
Nick Perry
What about
supposedly said, well, passed saying that they can come to your door and vaccinate you. They can come to your door.
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's not going to happen down the road, but as of now, they cannot force anybody right now.
Exactly.
That's the nurse.
But now, they will mess with some people depending on your job. They're going to say in order to do X, Y, and Z, you know, they want you vaccinated. But right now, they're not coming to anybody's door. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that if they're not doing it yet. But they're not doing that at this time. Where was the last question?
At the Capitol, there was chanting, "Hang Mike Pence."
Yes.
But he's Trump's man.
I know, but what happened is that Trump wanted Pence to break the Constitution and go against the Constitution by stopping the certification process. He wanted him to stop it, and Pence refused to stop the certification process, which they were banking on, because if they could disrupt that and in turn kick it back to the states. It's more Republican states than there are Democratic states, and that was his plan to retain, to do it over again and remain as president.
Yeah.
But Pence refused to do that. That's why the people who he sent there, they wanted Mike Pence, because he refused to follow those instructions, which were illegal, and you're not supposed to, and whether it's in politics, whether it's in a war situation like what happened in Germany in the World War II, or whether today you're not supposed to follow an illegal order.
But you don't,
because
you don't
can't
become
use
president by
Hold on,
popular
brother.
vote. You
Hold on,
become
brother.
president by
Hold on.
electoral college.
You can't use the excuse, you cannot use the excuse, I was following orders. That does not work anymore. Ever since the Nuremberg trial, you can't use that as an excuse. Anywhere in the world, you can't say, I was following orders, you know, well, I killed these people, but I was following direct order. That's not an excuse.
Ladies and gentlemen, they're going to be back here in 2 weeks. Sister Keisha?
Dr. Linda.
No, Sister Keisha? You ready? Sister Keisha will be here in 2 weeks. Topic?
To be determined.
To be determined.